Welcome to today's deep dive. We've received 50 Macbeth journal prompts,
Oh,
which is a lot. So we're going to try to unpack some of them and see what we can learn together.
it's really fascinating to see this approach because, these prompts aren't just about summarizing the plot or anything, right? They're designed to get you thinking critically and making connections between the play and your own life and the world around you.
Yeah. It's almost like having 50 different lenses to view Macbeth through, you know what I mean?
Right.
We've got prompts that explore the characters and the themes and the symbolism, and some even encourage you to step right into the shoes of the characters.
Yeah, and that's where the magic happens. When you start to engage with the material in a more personal way, I think that's when those aha moments happen and the play really comes alive.
So let's just jump right in. Some of these are character-focused prompts.
Okay.
There's one that asks us to reflect on Macbeth's ambition.
Okay.
And I mean, haven't we all felt that pull at some point? To achieve something, to reach for more?
Absolutely. It's definitely a fundamental part of the human experience. But I think what Shakespeare does so brilliantly is he explores both sides of that coin, that duality of ambition.
Right.
On the one hand, it can be a driving force for good, propelling us towards progress and innovation. But on the other hand, it can be a destructive force, leading to greed and corruption and ultimately downfall.
Yeah, and Macbeth is a perfect example of that, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely.
He starts out this, brave and loyal warrior. But that allure of power, it just becomes his undoing.
Exactly. And what makes it even more tragic is that, he's not inherently evil.
Right.
He's tempted, he's manipulated, and ultimately he makes a series of choices that lead him down this path of destruction. It really makes you wonder, are we all capable of succumbing to our ambition if the stakes are high enough?
That's a chilling thought. It reminds me of that famous quote, power tends to corrupt and absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Yes, exactly. And Shakespeare was exploring these ideas centuries before those words were ever written.
Wow.
Which speaks to, I think, the timeless nature of his work and why it continues to resonate with us even today.
Okay, so we've talked about Macbeth's ambition.
Yeah.
There's another character who's equally fascinating, Lady Macbeth.
Yes.
And there's a prompt that asks us to consider her transformation throughout the play.
Lady Macbeth, she's such a complex and intriguing character.
Right.
She starts out, this fierce, almost ruthless figure, urging her husband to seize power. But as we go through the play, we see the psychological toll that her ambition and the guilt takes on her.
She seems almost invisible in the beginning.
Right.
But by the end, she's totally unraveled.
It's really interesting how Shakespeare portrays her descent into madness. He uses such vivid imagery, like the constant hand washing,
Well, right?
to symbolize her inner turmoil.
It's almost as if she's trying to wash away the blood both literally and figuratively.
Exactly. And it's a powerful reminder that even the most ambitious and seemingly strong individuals can be broken by guilt and the consequences of their actions. It makes you think about the price of ambition and whether it's ever truly worth it.
It also makes you think about the different ways ambition can manifest itself.
Right.
Macbeth is driven by this outward desire for power.
Yes.
But Lady Macbeth seems more driven by a need for control, maybe even like a twisted sense of love for her husband.
Yeah, that's a great point. And it speaks to the complexity of human motivation.
Right.
Shakespeare doesn't offer simple answers or paint his characters in black and white. They're very multifaceted individuals with their own, desires and fears and vulnerabilities.
Well, speaking of vulnerabilities, there's a prompt that asks us to compare and contrast Macbeth and Banquo.
Oh, interesting.
Because they're both presented with opportunities for advancement, but they choose very different paths.
Banquo serves as a really powerful foil to Macbeth. He's tempted by the witch's prophecies, but ultimately he chooses to remain loyal to his king and to his conscience.
Right.
And he represents, I think, a different kind of strength, the strength to resist temptation and hold on to your principles.
It's interesting to think about what might have happened if Macbeth had followed Banquo's lead.
Right.
Would he have been able to avoid his tragic fate? Or was he destined to fall from grace no matter what?
That is the question, isn't it? That lies at the heart of this play. Fate versus free will. Do we actually have control over our destinies? Or are we just puppets in some larger cosmic game?
And it's a question that has fascinated, philosophers and artists for centuries. There's no easy answer.
Nope.
But exploring those different perspectives is part of what makes this play so rich and enduring.
I completely agree. And that's what makes these journal prompts so valuable. They're
Hmm.
not about finding the right answers, but about asking the right questions, exploring the different possibilities, and ultimately coming to a deeper understanding of the human experience.
So we've delved into, the motivations and complexities of some of the key characters.
Yeah.
What about the, I don't know, like the overarching themes of the play? I'm intrigued by the prompt that asks us to reflect on the nature of ambition and its consequences.
That's a great one to unpack because ambition, as we've seen,
Mhm.
is a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
It can drive progress and innovation, but it can also lead to corruption and violence and ultimately tragedy.
It's almost as if Shakespeare is saying, look, this is the human condition.
Right.
We all have these desires, these ambitions, but we need to be mindful of the choices we make and the consequences that follow.
Precisely. He's not condemning ambition outright, but he's certainly warning us about its potential dangers.
Mm.
And what's so fascinating is that these themes are just as relevant today as they were in Shakespeare's time.
Oh, absolutely. We see it everywhere.
Yeah, you see it in politics, in business, in our personal lives. Yeah, think about all the scandals that we see on the news, or the cutthroat competition in the corporate world, or even just like the little white lies that we tell to get ahead.
It's everywhere.
It's all part of this larger tapestry of human ambition.
Hmm.
And Shakespeare, through his characters and their choices, he's holding up a mirror to our own nature,
Right?
asking us to reflect on our own desires and the paths that we choose to take.
It's a powerful reminder that we're not so different from these characters, even though they lived centuries ago.
Right.
We all face temptations, we make choices, and we grapple with the consequences.
Absolutely. And that's why Shakespeare's works continue to resonate with us.
Mhm.
They speak to something really fundamental about the human experience.
Okay, so we've talked about ambition,
Yeah.
characters, and, those timeless themes.
Hmm.
Now I want to kind of shift gears a little bit and explore some of the prompts that focus on symbolism.
Okay.
And one that really caught my eye asks about the significance of blood in the play.
Blood, such a potent symbol, both literally and figuratively.
Mm-hmm.
It represents violence, of course, but it also represents guilt, the stain that just can't be washed away.
And it's everywhere in Macbeth.
Yeah.
I mean, from the murder of Duncan to Lady Macbeth's frenetic hand-washing,
Right.
it's a constant reminder of the consequences of their actions.
Think about that famous line, "Out, damned spot. Out, I say." She's desperately trying to cleanse herself, but the blood, both real and imagined, it clings to her.
It's such a haunting image, and it speaks to the psychological torment that follows those who commit these acts of violence.
Right, and it also raises questions about the nature of guilt and whether it can ever truly be absolved.
Right.
Is it enough to simply wash away the physical evidence, or is there a deeper, more profound stain that remains?
These are deep waters we're wading into.
Yeah, but that's what makes these prompts so compelling, They force us to think critically, to grapple with these complex issues, and to see the play in a whole new light.
Absolutely. We've only just begun to scratch the surface of what these 50 prompts have to offer.
It's true.
So much more to uncover.
Yes.
Let's take a break here, and we'll be back in the next part of our deep dive to explore even more of these fascinating prompts.
Sounds good. Welcome back to our deep dive into these 50 Macbeth journal prompts. I mean, we've only just begun to unravel the layers of meaning that are woven into this play.
I'm ready to keep digging.
Yeah.
But before we move on, I wanted to just touch back on something you mentioned earlier, about guilt and its impact on the characters.
Right.
It makes me think about the prompt that asks us to write a journal entry from Lady Macbeth's perspective after Duncan's murder.
That's a powerful one because it really forces us to step into the shoes of someone who has committed this truly horrific act. And try to understand, the psychological torment,
Right.
the unraveling of her mind as she grapples with the weight of her actions.
Imagine the burden of that secret, the constant fear of discovery, and the realization that ambition has led her down a path that she can't turn back from.
And remember, this is a woman who, at the start of the play, seemed utterly ruthless, willing to do whatever it took to secure power. But even she is not immune to the corrosive effects of guilt.
It's like Shakespeare is showing us that no matter how strong or ambitious we may be,
Yeah.
there's a human cost to our actions.
Yeah.
We can't just shut off our conscience
Right.
or escape the consequences of our choices.
And what's interesting is how guilt manifests differently in Macbeth and Lady Macbeth. He becomes increasingly paranoid and tyrannical,
Mm-hmm.
whereas she descends into this state of delusion and despair.
It's almost like Those contrasting responses remind us that there's no single formula for how guilt affects us.
Right.
It's a deeply personal experience. It's shaped by our individual personalities and circumstances.
Speaking of circumstances, there's a prompt that asks us to consider the role of the witches in Macbeth's downfall. Were they truly controlling his fate? Or were they simply manipulating his ambition to their own ends?
That's a question that has sparked debate for centuries.
Right.
Are they these supernatural beings with the power to see and shape the future? Or are they simply just, I don't know, skilled manipulators,
Right.
playing on Macbeth's desires and insecurities?
It's a fascinating dilemma, and I think it speaks to our fascination with this idea of, like, fate versus free will.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if the witches are truly in control, then Macbeth is simply a pawn in their game.
Right.
But if they're merely influencing him, then he still has agency. You know, he still has the power to choose his path.
And that's what makes the play so compelling, right?
Yeah.
We're left to wrestle with these questions, to examine the forces that shape our own lives and the choices that we make.
It's like Shakespeare's inviting us to be detectives, you know, to piece together all the clues and form our own conclusions about the nature of fate, ambition, and the human condition.
I love that analogy, like we're given all the pieces of the puzzle,
Mm.
but it's up to us to assemble them and find the meaning within.
Exactly. And there are so many different ways to interpret the evidence.
Right.
You know, some might see Macbeth as a victim of fate, while others might see him as the architect of his own downfall.
There's even a prompt that asks us to imagine rewriting the ending of the play.
Oh, wow.
Like, if
Yeah.
you had the power to change Macbeth's fate, would you? And if so, how would you do it?
That's a challenging one.
Right.
It forces us to confront our own values and beliefs about justice, redemption, the possibility of second chances.
Mm.
You know, would we give Macbeth a chance to atone for his sins? Or would we believe that some actions are simply unforgivable?
It's almost like we're being asked to play God,
Yeah.
you know, to weigh the scales of good and evil and decide the ultimate fate of this, you know, complex and tragic character.
And it's not an easy task.
Right.
I mean, there's a reason why Shakespeare's tragedies continue to resonate with us. I think
Mhm.
they delve into the deepest recesses of the human heart, exploring these themes of ambition and betrayal, the consequences of our choices.
And these prompts, by encouraging us to engage with the material on such a personal level, help us to see those themes reflected in our own lives, you know?
Yeah.
They're not just these passive observers.
Right.
We're active participants, you know, grappling with the same questions that have haunted humanity for centuries.
Speaking of active participation, there's a prompt that asks us to imagine writing a letter to Macbeth, offering him advice before he makes those, you know, fateful decisions.
Oh, that's an interesting one.
Right.
What would you say to him? Knowing what we know about his ambition, his susceptibility to manipulation, and the tragic path that lies ahead, what words of wisdom could we possibly offer?
It's almost like a paradox, isn't it?
Mhm.
We know how the story unfolds.
Yeah.
We know the consequences of his actions, and yet we're being asked to imagine a world where we could intervene, where our words might actually alter the course of his destiny.
It reminds me of those, you know, what-if scenarios that we sometimes play out in our own minds. You know, those moments where we wonder, gosh, what might have happened if I had made a different choice? You
Yeah.
know, taken a different path.
And perhaps that's the ultimate lesson of Macbeth and of these prompts as well.
Yeah.
You know, we are all constantly making choices,
Right.
navigating these complexities of life, grappling with the forces that shape our destinies.
There's no guarantee of a happy ending. There's no magical formula for avoiding tragedy.
Right.
But by engaging with these stories, by confronting these difficult questions,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, maybe we can gain a deeper understanding of ourselves and the world around us.
And in that, I think, is the true power of literature. It allows us to step outside of our own lives,
Mm-hmm.
explore different perspectives, and connect with something larger than ourselves.
I couldn't have said it better myself. I mean, these 50 Macbeth Journal prompts have truly taken us on a journey,
They have.
prompting us to explore not only the play itself,
Yeah.
but also the depths of the human experience.
And we're not done yet.
There's more.
Oh, yeah. There's still so many prompts left to explore,
Yeah.
each one offering, you know, like a unique lens through which to view this timeless masterpiece.
Well, let's continue our exploration in the final part of this deep dive then. Welcome back to our deep dive into the world of Macbeth, you know. It's been quite a journey exploring these 50 journal prompts.
It really has, yeah. We've covered so much ground, like ambition, guilt, fate, free will.
I know.
It's amazing how much this one play can spark such profound questions.
And that's what I think makes these prompts so effective.
Hmm.
They push us beyond just summarizing the plot
Right.
and into that realm of critical thinking and personal reflection.
Yeah, they really encourage us to see ourselves in these characters, to confront the same dilemmas that they face, and to grapple with these timeless themes that have resonated with audiences for centuries.
There's one prompt that really struck me as we've been talking.
Okay.
It asks us to reflect on a time when we stood up for what we believed in, even when it was, difficult or risky.
It's a powerful prompt because it challenges us to consider our own capacity for courage and integrity.
Right.
Do we have the strength to stand up for what's right, even when it might cost us something?
It makes me think of characters like Macduff, who ultimately challenges Macbeth's tyranny, even though he knows that, it could mean losing everything.
Macduff embodies a different kind of ambition, I think. An ambition for justice, for restoring order to a world that's been thrown into chaos.
Right.
And it's a reminder that ambition isn't always about personal gain.
Right.
It can also be a force for good, a driving force for positive change in the world.
It's almost like a counterpoint to Macbeth's ambition, which becomes so twisted and destructive.
Exactly. And it raises the question, what kind of ambition do we want to cultivate in our own lives? What are we willing to fight for? What are we willing to sacrifice for?
Those are questions worth pondering, and I think they're really at the heart of what makes Macbeth so enduringly relevant.
Yeah, it's a play that speaks to those, I don't know, the complexities of the human spirit, the struggles that we all face between our desires and our conscience.
Well, speaking of conscience, there's a prompt that asks us to imagine writing a dialogue between Macbeth and Lady Macbeth in the afterlife.
Ooh, that's an interesting one.
I know, right? It makes you wonder, would they find any kind of peace or resolution after all they've done? Would they regret their choices? Or would they still be, clinging to those same ambitions that led them down such a dark path?
It's almost like we're being asked to play the role of therapist,
Right.
to try to untangle the threads of their relationship and the psychological toll that ambition and guilt have taken on them.
And it's a reminder that even in death, the consequences of our actions continue to reverberate. We can't just escape the past
Right.
or the choices that we've made.
It makes you think about the legacy we leave behind,
Mm.
the impact that our actions have on others,
Right.
and the stories that continue to be told long after we're gone.
And that's the beauty of literature, isn't it? It allows us to engage with these stories, to learn from the past, and to find meaning in the human experience.
I agree.
Before we wrap up, I wanted to touch on one last prompt.
Okay.
It asks us to imagine meeting Shakespeare himself.
Wow.
What would we ask him about Macbeth? What insights would we hope to gain?
That's a fantastic question. I think I would be most curious to hear his thoughts on the character's motivations. What drove Lady Macbeth to be so ruthless?
Right.
Did Macbeth ever truly believe he could escape the consequences of his actions?
I'd love to ask him about the ending.
Yeah.
Was it always intended to be so bleak? Did he ever consider a more redemptive arc for Macbeth? Or did he believe that some actions are simply unforgivable?
I mean, those are questions that have captivated audiences for centuries, and it's a testament to Shakespeare's genius that there are no easy answers.
It's a play that continues to challenge us and provoke us and invite us to grapple with, the deepest questions about human nature. And these 50 journal prompts have provided us with, I think, a unique and insightful way to engage with this masterpiece.
They really have.
We've explored the characters, the themes, the symbolism, and even the possibility of rewriting the story. But the real journey begins now, as you, the listener, delve into these prompts and uncover your own insights.
Absolutely. We encourage you to approach these prompts with an open mind and a curious heart.
Don't be afraid to challenge assumptions, explore different perspectives, and make connections to your own life.
As you embark on this exploration, we'll leave you with one final thought to ponder. What does Macbeth ultimately teach us about the human condition, and how can those lessons guide us in our own lives? Until next time, keep diving deep.